Hi everyone, I'm Summer. Welcome to my channel. Today I will share the drawing method of leather materials. We can observe the characteristics of leather materials through some real photos. First of all, leather material has a certain degree of softness. So some small wrinkles will appear on the leather material. The glove on this side is made of leather. Parts like the belts of clothes are all made of leather materials. Some wrinkles will appear on their surfaces, and it is also very easy for them to deform. There will also be some pore marks left on the surface of the leather material due to hair growth. This makes the surface of the leather material not very smooth, so the reaction to light after being exposed to it is not as strong as that of metals. When drawing leather, the highlight treatment can be slightly weaker. If a protective coating layer is applied to the surface of the leather, it is like the material of patent leather. There will be a strong highlight in the illuminated part, and at the same time, there will also be a very strong reflection, because the added layer will balance the pores on the leather surface, making it smooth. However, leather itself reacts relatively weakly to light. The reflection is naturally not that strong, so be careful when drawing. Leather is a tissue that grows on the surface of animals and has the functions of protection and cold resistance. Therefore, leather has a certain thickness. This makes the wrinkles produced by the clothing made of leather relatively loose. When drawing things like belts or leather jackets, pay attention to the shape of the wrinkles and the thickness of the edges. To express the thickness, the surface structure should be increased. After understanding these rules, we can draw better leather. Now, let's learn about the painting techniques of leather together through a simple little case. Take a belt as an example. Belts are also elements that frequently appear in many character design drawings. Let's draw it step by step. First, draw a sketch. Suppose the belt is tied to a person's waist and a perspective is added when drawing. Pay attention to whether the interlocking structure at the front end of the belt is reasonable. For this part, you can find a clear reference picture or tie it yourself with a belt. The structure of the belt buckle should also be analyzed clearly. How does the belt interweave into the belt buckle? It is necessary to draw it clearly. Be sure to pay attention to the thickness of the belt. The sketch should be drawn. Next, outline the lines of the belt with a clear line drawing. I'm using the hard-edged, round-tipped brush that comes with the magic wand tool on the online draft layer to select the parts that need to be filled with color. Expand the selection area by 1 pixel, which can make the color filling more complete. If this is not done, when rendering and refining, it will be found that there are some very small pixel areas at the edge of the line draft that have not been filled with color. Then you can fill in the color you like. I chose brown, which is commonly used for normal leather. The buckle part of the belt is made of silver. Note that in silver cases, the inherent color usually opts for a low saturation gray. The hue of the color can be bluish, purple, or other colors. If the saturation is low, it won't have much impact. What hue to choose specifically depends on the tone in the picture. Choose a color with a lower lightness than the inherent color to draw the first layer of dark areas. For the layer, I used the normal mode layer. You can also use the overlay layer mode. but the overlay layer will significantly reduce the brightness of the picture. When choosing colors, you need to increase the brightness and saturation of the colors. This layer mainly depicts the dark and projected parts of the form. A little background color can be left in the reflective areas for the rotating parts of the shape. Due to the soft nature of the belt, a coating tool can be used to add some transition. The metal ring of the belt buckle should also add dark areas and projections, even if it is very thin and small. Create a new normal layer to draw the occlusive shadow. Choose colors with a lower lightness than the dark areas of the first layer. Note that the color saturation should be appropriately increased. The main focus is on the crevices where light is completely indistinguishable. At this level, I have simultaneously strengthened the boundary between light and shade because I think the overall sense of volume is not quite sufficient. Create a new normal layer to draw highlights. The main leather material does not react so strongly to light. The color selection for highlights is a color with a slightly higher lightness and a slightly lower saturation than the inherent color, and the hue can be shifted towards the light source. The highlights are mainly drawn on the raised parts of the shape and the plane, with the belt facing upwards. The highlights are drawn in the shape of H or Z. It should be noted that the shape needs to be slightly deformed according to the twisting degree of the belt. The highlights should not be drawn too strongly. The color of the highlights can be changed through color selection. When choosing colors, the lightness of the colors should not be increased too much compared to the inherent colors. The amount and intensity of the color application can also be controlled by the force of the hand. The highlights of the metal parts can be drawn more intensely, and a higher brightness color can be chosen. But don't draw the area too large. Create a new normal layer to draw the reflection. The reflection of leather material is not too strong. I chose a blue-gray color for painting. Of course, the color can be selected from other color series. However, for warm-toned leather, using cool-toned reflective materials will have a better visual effect. Finally, use a color lightening layer to brighten the illuminated part of the belt to enhance the light effect. Pay attention to choosing colors with high lightness and moderate saturation. The opacity of the brush needs to be reduced. I usually use 10% because the color lightening layer can easily overexpose the color, so the belt is drawn. When painting leather materials, pay attention to the following. Leather is relatively soft, prone to wrinkles, has an uneven surface, and has a weak response to light. Leather has a certain thickness, so the wrinkles will be relatively loose. That's all for today's sharing. I hope everyone can feel the joy of painting during the process. I will bring you more wonderful content. Stay tuned.